Just like that, the 2024-25 Premier League season is over and Tottenham are European champions and yet lost 22 games in the Premier League this season. It has been one of the most bizarre, confusing, up and down rollercoaster seasons that I've witnessed in my lifetime. But here we are, we finally broke our 17-year trophy drought and we are playing Champions League football next season. Yet we still don't know if the manager is going to be at the club next season. It is all just so messy. And, you know, I know a lot of people were there at the stadium for that 4-1 loss to Brighton today, which just caps off our season, really. I know it was a meaningless game and half the squad probably still hungover or struggling from all of the celebrations, from the victory parade, from the night in Bilbao, which, by the way, one of the best weeks of my life. Going to Bilbao, being inside that stadium, watching Tottenham Hotspur lift a European Cup, their first European Cup in 41 years. As you can probably tell, my voice is still recovering from that trip, from the last couple of days. It has just been so full on, an extreme lack of sleep, an extreme amount of alcohol consumed. It was all worth it. It's what we've dreamed of for so many years now, isn't it? That's the be-all and end-all of football, is that you want to win trophies and you want to win silverware, and that's what so many of us have been so desperate to see for such a long time, and it's where the brunt of the anger comes at Daniel Levy and the club as a whole. So to finally get over that hurdle and quash those trophyless jokes and Spurs being the butt of the joke for many, many things when it comes to winning silverware is just a relief and a weight off all of our shoulders. But there's one big question that still remains. Does Ange Postecoglou deserve to remain as Tottenham manager? Now, I know that YouTube is a very different platform to X, and I've posted my thoughts and asked the questions over on X. I've put out a poll asking, does Ange Postecoglou deserve to be Tottenham manager next season? And it is an incredibly tight split between yes and no. And I just think that is because the argument is so finely balanced and so up for debate. There are a lot of reasons to keep Ange Postecoglou, but also probably far too many reasons for him to be sacked. And that's the harsh reality of the situation. Unfortunately, Ange has done a lot right in terms of the path to the European trophy, but there's also been a lot that has not been to like. And he said at the end of the Brighton game today, been finding it really weird talking about his future and the fact that it's uncertain when he's done something so unprecedented, and he believes that winning that Europa League title could be a defining moment for the club, and it could be a defining moment for him and his Tottenham tenure. If we keep him, we'll be going into his third season at the club, something that the likes of Mourinho couldn't get to, Antonio Conte, obviously Nuno, everyone else that came before, all the way back to Pochettino. And we're at a crossroads really, because if we double down and we back Ange Postecoglou, we do face the risk of repeating what Manchester United done, which is they won the FA Cup last season despite being really poor in the league and really poor under Erik ten Hag, and then a few months into the new campaign they sacked him anyway because the same trends just continued. So there's no doubt that I think that is a risk for Daniel Levy and for Tottenham as we look towards the 2025-26 campaign. But Ange has been very, very clear. He's already said he wants to bring in experience during the summer transfer window, not in terms of necessarily age, but in terms of players that are seasoned in the Premier League, etc. So that's a potential hint. He's also said that he really, really wants to keep Christian Romero. I'm sure some of you have seen the videos of the two embracing quite a lot during the course of the celebrations over the last week or so. There's a lot of rumours about him potentially going to Atletico Madrid or leaving the club in the next couple of weeks or months. However, there are some things that we simply cannot turn away from and look the other way for. And this is where the issue comes into play. Yes, Tottenham have won a trophy. First one in 17 years. Amazing. A huge achievement. Some are even calling for a statue of Ange outside the stadium. The fact that he will go down as a legendary manager. And that is true. And it's one of the reasons why I do want to keep him. And before I go into these negatives, I do just want to put out there that I'm so on the fence. You know, I think before the Europa League, I was sitting there thinking, yeah, well, look, he's going to go regardless. But the fact that he stepped up, he delivered. He followed through on his quote that he always wins in his second season. I just feel like that does give him more wiggle room in terms of being given another chance for at least the first part of the next season. However, as I was just coming on to, we just lost our 10th home game of the Premier League season. 4-1 at home to Brighton. We've conceded a lot of goals at home, a lot of goals across the Premier League. It is also our 22nd Premier League loss of the campaign, our worst ever in the Premier League era, and a bit of history that we probably don't really want to be associated. Tottenham have now lost the most amount of games in a season without actually being relegated. And a lot of people say it, and I do think it's true. We are very, very lucky that there were 3 worse teams than us this season. And I know the counter-argument to that is that Ange Postecoglou gave up on the Premier League in January, February time due to the injuries, due to the fact that we couldn't get into Europe, and he just wanted to focus on that Europa League campaign. But Daniel Levy is our chairman, right? And he is very much driven on success and results and consistency. And I know that he will be looking there and looking at 17th place in the league and thinking, that's not good enough. I'm not happy with that. And I don't know whether he will trust Ange Postecoglou or not to turn that ship around if he can only focus on one thing at a time. Next season, we've got to play in the Champions League, which is, of course, a big step up from the Europa League. The teams are much better. Daniel Levy would love to do really well in that competition. But as it stands, with the injuries we seem to get with Ange in charge through training regimes, whatever it may be, whether it's just bad luck, plus trying to compete in the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup and the Premier League as well, I just don't know whether Daniel Levy will find it believable that Ange can manage a squad through all of those games, considering how intense his regime is at the club. And that's probably something that plays against his name and against what's happened this season. I think another thing you've got to look at is the fan reaction to Ange after winning the Europa League. I think those of you that watched the game or were in the stadium for the Brighton game, they were singing his name a lot throughout the 90 minutes. And I don't know whether that's just because they wanted to show their appreciation for the manager who's done what so many before him could not do, or whether that is because, you know, they've softened to him. He delivered, and ultimately that is what he said he was going to do. The Premier League was gone a long, long time ago, and maybe the mindset of some fans is that it's softened on keeping him as a manager just because they know that the results in the Premier League for the last 3 or 4 months haven't really mattered. And that is ultimately the case. That genuinely is the case. We couldn't finish any higher than 13th, 14th in the Premier League. We couldn't get relegated, so why not throw everything into Europe? And it's just, the main concern is it's a risk, and it's probably a risk that could very easily backfire on the club in the next couple of months and into that first stretch of the new season. It's whether we, as a fan base and as a club, want to take that risk. Do we trust Ange to bring the right players in the summer? I think we do. I think he's shown that his recruitment is actually quite good. He's always been very clear in terms of the players that he wants. But is he the manager to now build on that success? He is the one that will forever be known as the guy that got us over that hump, got us in to that new era of post-winning silverware life. He will be a legend. Ultimately, when we look back in 30, 40 years, he will be the one that ended our trophy drought. Is he the one that can bring unparalleled constant success to Tottenham? I'm not sure whether he is still. And like I said, I'm so on the fence. If Daniel Levy was to sack him in the next week or two, could any of us really have any complaints considering how bad the league has been? But yet, if he stays and if Levy says, yeah, look, he's earned the right to another season, could any of us complain about that? I really don't think that we could. So I don't have a definitive answer for this. I just sort of wanted to speak my opinion on the entire situation because I think the fan base is really split. A lot of replies to me on social media have been very varied. A lot of people are saying, yes, he will be forever known as a legend, but it's time to part ways and bring in a better manager to rebuild with. And others have said, look, we're just going to start going backwards again if we change the manager again. And I do agree with that point. We do keep going through the 2-year cycle. And, this is the chance to back Ange Postecoglou, go into that third season and see what he can deliver now that he's eased the pressure around the club in terms of silverware. So it's a really difficult decision. I certainly wouldn't want to be in Daniel Levy's shoes to have to make it. But that is what is up there. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Does Ange Postecoglou deserve to stay on as Tottenham Hotspur manager? If not, who would you replace him with? I'm not overwhelmed with the targets, to be totally honest with you, which maybe means I'm leaning more towards the keep him camp. But there are a lot of reasons not to as well. So it's a really, really tough one. I'm very conflicted, and I do feel a little bit guilty because he's just delivered one of the best nights of our lives and in the club's history. And maybe he does deserve that extra little bit of time. Who knows? Only time will tell at the end of the day. But thank you so much for watching. There will be more videos coming in the next days, weeks. Summer transfer window is going to be so exciting. I do think this Champions League qualification is going to give us a huge boost in terms of the transfer market. So I can't wait to bring you guys some content on that. I'm thinking of a season review as my next video where we talk about the highs and lows of the season and just reflect on what has been absolute chaos. So keep an eye out for that. Enjoy the rest of your bank holiday weekend. Enjoy your week. We are finally European champions again. Johnson again, ole ole. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Like the video, and as always, come on you Spurs.